I don't know the format, like the next room actually, someone actually started, but maybe actually I just like introduce myself and we start. My name is Jung Ho Choi. Thank you for everyone actually coming for this room, and I'm so excited to share my study with you. And my co-author is Choi, and she was actually a Stanford student, now actually MIT, and then last year I visited MIT as well. And then at that time we actually developed this paper, Human plus AI in Accounting, all the evidence from the field. So how did we actually start this project? Yes, I'm accountant and I'm an accounting researcher, so it's kind of natural to think about this topic, but that's not the only reason. Actually, the definition of accounting is to collect and analyzing a large amount of transaction level data at the corporation and synthesizing some financial insight and then deliver that to decision makers, usually managers and investors. Now, if you think about generative AI, the core functionality is processing and generating a large amount of data, including text. So you actually see some commonality between this definition of accounting and also the core functionality of a generative AI. And there, actually, in accounting field, there's a lot of excitement and also at the same time concern about what's going on because of this adoption of generative AI in accounting. So here, we really take the input-based approach. In other words, we really try to think about what would be the impact of generative AI in accounting a work. We first actually try to think about what are the potential gains and losses of adopting generative AI in accounting space, and also from there, what is the implication of that adoption to, for example, accounting outcome, financial reporting quality, and then later we actually think about what is going on right now, human and AI in this space, accounting. So how actually can generative AI change accounting work? So if you're actually not familiar with accounting, just like simply any transaction or what firms actually doing, we try to translate from there to what's going on that actually transaction to firm's profitability or asset or liability. And there, just starting to simple, in the past already, IT evolution really changed also accounting field, where let's say if you're purchasing something from Amazon, let's try to record that Amazon transaction is, let's say, office supply, because that's probably what we actually did. And you can code it as well. However, as business actually become complex, as well as accounting standard change, and in general, companies actually transaction is much more complex than what I actually just described. So that any more sophisticated context-based accounting tech, let's say it's not just like a purchase for office product. Let's say we actually purchase from the Amazon many different actually services, so we actually classify them. And also depending on our own business, we actually classify them differently. These kind of tasks were very difficult to be assisted by previously only the machine or IT. Now generative AI plus machine learning really help us to even move this direction to get some help from AI. Not only that, what's happening is that in this space, like a financial industry, still what we see is that human is in the loop. In other words, we are not going to easily right now give up the responsibility of like reporting what is actually firm's financial statement or financial performance to investors. In that sense, we have to think about how actually then this current spaces, AI and human, can work together. In the past, because this relationship is usually only one way, we can actually get some actually classification from the AI, and then maybe whether human to decide whether they want to use it or not. But generative AI now actually changing this relationship in two ways. I'm going to actually show you with actually the platform that we are working with, how actually that is happening. So what we are going to do in this paper is that we try to actually survey a accountant about like 100 and then try to glean their insight, because some of them, they are already using it, this technology, as well as also we partner with the platform which already developed some of the AI assistant into this work flow, and then how actually from there, using the granular data, technologically and empirically, try to understand this phenomenon. So just like a sake of the time, we built on a lot of literature, both actually accounting and also labor economics. Sake of the time, actually we move on to what's going on here in this space, accounting. So we first actually surveyed the accountant to try to actually think about what could be the potential impact of adapting generative AI in accounting spaces. And the answers are somewhat actually you might have expected. These are the potential things might happen. Automation of the routine tasks and faster completion of work and deadline, and also at the same time AI errors. I want to actually mention that two things are benefits, and then the last thing is actually here's a concern. And we also find that right now, relative to the other industries, such as software engineering or software development, this AI adoption is really pervasive. Almost 70 or 80% of the software engineer are already using the AI. However, in accounting space, still it is actually lagging about only 30 or 40%. One of the reasons is AI error. And then I'm going to actually show you one actually sequence of the AI error. And then in the future research, we can think about how we can actually try to contain this in the space. So let's actually think about these three features, automation, and augmentation, and also AI error, technologically again, also empirically. So technologically, I'm going to actually show you this partner platform's screenshot. So here, what you can think about is that maybe your own bank account, when you actually do any of the transaction, bank feed will be generated, and then this platform try to immediately get that bank feed and try to populate the date, vendor, then amount, so that it will be automatically populated, so that this is a little bit already reducing some of the data entry job that before accountant did. But what actually right now AI helping is that based on this information, such as actually the second row is about American Airlines Wi-Fi, they try to now actually translate that would be air travel, so that this is an air travel cost, and then that is actually suggestion based on this information. And not only that, but actually also AI try to help to work with actually human. In the end, human in this actual platform still make sure that they want to confirm this categorization or change this categorization to the right one. They want to actually show this confidence score, how much AI actually believe it is confident in terms of this suggestion. This actually, you can think about just likelihood function, and then they actually really show the probability about that. So far, this is not really yet actually generative AI actually functionality. This can be even done in the past, like 5 or 10 years ago, just using the logic model. What generative AI right now helping in this actual workplace is that first, processing and also generating. What I mean by that is that when they actually see Amazon as a vendor or American Airlines as a vendor, they not actually just not using the rule, they actually go to the website and then scrape the description of their businesses and compare also that business description also with the company's business description to really actually come up with the classification suggestion. And when they do that, not only they use that information, they also communicate as a summary to the user of this platform. So there is also one actually important benefit of the generative AI right now is that it's not that just like AI is suggesting and then that's it. AI try to communicate what they're suggesting to the human accountant. And that interaction really also reflected in this screen where they not only actually suggesting that, they also try to rationalize it. This is why the generative AI try to actually recommend this classification. And there is also another interaction really happening. And then also deep learning is happening in terms of the previous actually transaction. Finally, I said actually interaction, so there should be the two-way. So if the human doesn't actually agree with what AI is actually suggesting, not only human can just change that actually classification to the right one, they can just providing additional information to actually the system, and then AI can update their suggestion. So this is actually how right now generative AI really helping this work. In other words, not only processing, also generating, and this communication two-way is right now happening in this space. So how the content really interact in this space? In other words, technologically, I showed how actually human and AI can actually interact in this platform. I'm going to actually show you empirically what's happening, how that actually changing working outcome and also workflows. So in terms of the working outcome, this platform was established early actually 2023. So right now about 80 companies already using this platform, and they actually start to use this platform in various time period in 2023 and 2024. So we are going to compare pre and post as well as across companies and try to understanding what happened because of this adoption of generative AI. And these 79 companies are mid and then small size companies, and they didn't have actually a lot of resources for accounting. That's why also they are delegating this functionality to this platform. So the first empirical finding that we have is that we actually take a look at how quickly, therefore, they can glean their financial insight and then deliver that to the manager and venture capitalists every month. We're actually finding that in this second column, about 7.5 days, in other words, almost like a week earlier, every month, they can actually now provide that information to managers and as they use the generative AI, as well as also much more granular data. In the first column, now they are using more detailed account to deliver their message. In other words, in the past, they might actually only say, oh, there's an increase in more expenses. Now they specifically say, oh, there's a more increase in expenses due to travel expense or R&D expense. So how that actually related to the changes of the accountant work, this bookkeeping is the one where actually much more routine when they actually first come up with their own classification suggestion. That time, as you can see from the early 2024 all the way to the 2025 is actually reducing. As you can see, the graph is going down. At the same time, with that reduced time, those accountants now actually can serve more clients weekly so that there's some labor productivity and time allocation effect. However, if thinking about this is automation, there is also augmentation is happening. In other words, in the end, still accountant should actually confirm what is the correct account in the specific transaction. And for that, I actually showed you the confidence score that is between the 0 to 1. And when that confidence score, based on all the way to the third column, 10% lower, in other words, AI suggesting something, but it is AI also indicate that they are less certain about this actual suggestion, then 10% more likely that human accountant try to intervene that transaction and then change that transaction to the righter one. And in that sense, therefore, even though some of the human accountant expertise might be replaced by the AI, but at the same time, this kind of correction, what is the right one, how can we review it, this skill is much more important now because that's how actually it can be augmented by the generative AI. Now the last piece I want to actually talk about is the AI error. So for the AI error, by the way, so far the data is the real data. We actually use the field data. But in this actually AI error, we cannot just simply use the field data because sometimes error is rare, or when there error happening, it's very difficult where error comes from. Is it from human or AI? We really want to think about AI error and how that actually feeds into the system. For that reason, what we did is we simulated a data as we realized for a few different actually transactions, there are a few cases where AI actually suggesting two different answers for the same question. Probably some of you already experienced when you ask the same question in the ChatGPT, sometimes ChatGPT gave you slightly different answers. So this is exactly that example, and it could be intuitive such a way that American airline Wi-Fi, if you only focus on the first American airline, it could be transportation cost. But if you focus on the later Wi-Fi, then it could be telecommunication cost. So actually half and half chance AI is suggesting sometimes travel and sometimes telecommunication cost. And then what you're finding in the bottom table diagonal, a large number, meaning that even though this is actually random, therefore I can call AI randomness, still this AI randomness is influencing what human is deciding. In other words, when human accountants are suggested by the AI, this is American airline Wi-Fi is transportation cost. Humans are more likely to choose or confirm that transportation cost as the final designation of the transaction when humans are suggested by the AI that is the telecommunication cost. They are more likely to also choose telecommunication cost as a confirmation. So overall, in this study, we actually try to understanding how generative AI in the accounting space right now changing accounting work and outcome with actually small number of observations, but still glean some insight from it. And we actually first think about automation, augmentation, and AI error. And then I actually show you some of the examples how actually all three things right now happening in this space. Now, what's interesting is that for the future, considering this kind of a situation, what would be the right way to design the AI system, given the human might actually sometimes miss the AI error? Do we just have to reduce the AI error as much as we can? Or we have to slightly have the different compensation structure for accountant to actually kind of better interaction between the AI and human? That might be the future research agenda, as well as also last thing is that our sample was mid and small size companies. Right now, many of the discussion about the AI is big actually companies like Amazon and then Disney. They already can announce that they are going to use AI into their accounting system. However, this study also point out that in some cases right now, even for small and mid-sized company entrepreneurs start to use AI probably because of the cost reason. And that is also another finding from our paper. Thanks for your time.
What underlying model is used in the study? And also given the enterprise setting, have you considered using open source models so they can be deployed on the company's own infrastructure?
That's actually a great question. So the platform is still using the ChatGPT 4.0 as a baseline model and then fine-tuning it. So starting point is still the open source model, but actually they do fine-tuning and then geared toward their situation. So that's the one thing. And then yes, actually probably a company therefore can utilize some of the open source model to do this exercise. One thing, however, mentioned is that in this space, you can imagine that any of the hallucination or any of the wrong answer is really key drawback of this space. So that what they do actually technologically is that in the middle, they actually creating the knowledge graph. So that they always actually triangulate through the knowledge graph they actually accumulate it. But that being said, yes, actually open source combining with the knowledge graph might be actually another way for the company try to actually adapting this the technological innovation.
Oh yeah, very cool. Technology presentation. So the question about the kind of the uses, right? And I think you kind of already touched on that at the end, right? So it seems that this technology will be very useful for the small and medium businesses, right? Because all the big companies have ERP systems, so most of the transactions are highly standardized, goes through databases, right? So I don't think they would face this particular problem, right, that you were showing. So do you think this would be like technology would again be somewhat a replacement of ERP systems or something like that, right? So to standardize, categorize these processes instead of deploying this huge, very costly account information system.
That's a good question. I think as you mentioned, already ERP system, if it is already sophisticated enough, it might actually already doing some of the work actually right now actually showed you. And also I had an opportunity to talk with Seb, is actually one of the engineer at the SAP who was actually, and then right now establishing some accounting software company. So I think the previous technology, as I discussed with you earlier actually slide, that especially the large companies already has some of the functionality, but what's actually missed in the previous actually technology, I believe, is this two-way communication. What I mean by that any of the ERP systems still it's the way to processing some of data and then providing some of the suggestions to the human accountant, but when they do that, it's very difficult to communicate in such a way that they are summarizing what they actually learn through the process, and also at the same time, whether human can, in a text base, to comes back to the ERP system to update some of the suggestions. So those things might be a little bit more helpful even for the large firm in the future to expanding this interaction between the human and AI. In other words, probably the starting point might be much further already for the large company so that the increment might be a little bit smaller, but that increment might be exactly coming from this two-way interaction.
Yeah, for large companies, it seems that it will help when you have these maybe non-standard transactions, right? Yeah. That will help.
That also, yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely made it better.
Thank you very much.